Okay, we should be live in just a few seconds.
All right, everyone. Welcome to Cyberfest. This is our 19th annual Zine Fest. As you know, we're going from September 6th through September 26th. You are here for our Q&A with our Week 2 guest of honor, Deth P. son. This is just our order of events, what's going to happen in this 1 hour. We'll do a little intro, go over house rules and expectations, including our safer spaces policy. Then I, the host, Anand Vedawala, will introduce myself and the artist, Deth. After that, Deth will share his work for about 12 minutes or so. And then we'll have a Q&A with Deth. Then we'll take some questions. And then close it out. A little bit about San Francisco Zine Fest. We were founded in 2001 as a gathering place for writers and artists from around the world, but especially the Bay Area. And it's typically held as a one-day event at the County Fair Building in Golden Gate Park in San Francisco. And last year we had over about 240 exhibitors and over 5,000 people who attended the event. But of course, due to COVID-19, we've decided to go 100% virtual this year. What is Cyberfest, you may be wondering? Well, like I said, it's 3 weeks of online programming. We have exhibitors show and tell, which we just had earlier today. Readings, workshops, demos, interviews, and lots of other things. We have 3 guests of honor as opposed to our 1 guest of honor that we had previously in our previous years. This way, for all 3 weeks, we have 1 guest of honor highlighting each week. So for the first week, it was Alex L. Combs.
Sorry, Anand, can you unshare your screen and reshare your screen, please? We're having some technical issues.
Sure. Let's see. Try that one more time. What slide were we stuck on?
The first one.
All right. How about now?
I am not seeing any slides.
Oh no.
I am just seeing your a blank Zoom window.
Maybe I will make it a presentation. I'll just do like.
Okay. You're good now.
Okay, great. Sorry, everyone. All right, so 3 weeks of online programming. We have lots of different things happening. We have 3 guests of honor. Last week it was Alex L. Combs. This week, because this is week 2, is Deth P. son, and our final week will be Tana Tucker. Moving on to our safer spaces policy. Hopefully you're all able to see this. We are committed to providing a harassment-free experience for everyone, regardless of gender, gender identity or expression, sexual orientation, disability, their physical appearance, body size, race, or religion. We will not tolerate harassment at San Francisco Zine Fest events in any form. Individuals violating the safer spaces policy may be sanctioned or expelled from the space or the event at the discretion of any San Francisco Zine Fest organizer. Please remember to respect people's opinions, beliefs, differing states of being, and differing points of view. Always get explicit verbal consent before taking someone's photo or crossing other personal boundaries. Be responsible for your actions and aware that they may have an effect on others regardless of your original intent. A safe and respectful community is everyone's responsibility. Guidelines for tonight's event. Keep your video off to prevent lagging. The host, guest of honor, and ASL interpreters will have their videos on. Keep yourself on mute unless you are presenting. ASL interpretation is provided by ProBonoASL's Ashley Rodriguez and Gregorio Nieto for this event. And please be mindful of folks who are blind or visually impaired by being specific and descriptive when sharing your work. Please note that the Zoom session right now is being recorded and broadcast to Facebook and YouTube. Above all, please be respectful. All right, now a little bit about me, because you may be wondering who's this random person who's just talking to us. Well, my name is Anand. I'm a queer South Asian artist, writer, and educator based in Oakland. I'm currently a kindergarten teacher and one of the organizers of San Francisco Zine Fest. My self-published first book, 100 Years From Now, Our Bones Will Be Different, with artist Lawrence McWilliams it received a starred review from Publishers Weekly. In 2018, my zine Hair was awarded Best Zine and Best Per Zine by Brickell Pencil Zine Awards. Currently, I'm signed by LGR Literary Agency, and I'm currently supposed to be working on a children's book, which I really should get to. You can find more information about me on my website. It's anandvedawala.com. And here are just some covers for my zines and random things for my other art pieces. All right, now to the main event, our guest of honor, Deth P. I'm going to read Deth's bio, and then Deth will share their work and talk a little bit about himself. Deth is an artist currently living in a small seaside town in Northern California. Originally from down south in San Diego, Deth moved up to the Bay Area where he studied for 2 years at San Francisco State University, and then transferred to the California College of Arts and Crafts, where in 2002, he received a BFA in painting and drawing. Over the years, his work has shown throughout the US and abroad. Deth is also a zine maker. His first one was when he was 17, and he has tried to make one each year since. Most of them are collections of his drawings for each year, but he also ventures in documenting and history zines. These days, he plans vacations around possible zine fairs to table at. Deth's work is informed by his interest in nature, exploring, and wordless storytelling. If there is a way of describing his work, it would be a suggestive narrative with romantic and depressive images. All right, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And Deth, can you please tell us your name, your pronouns, a little bit about yourself, anything else you'd like to add, and then we'd love to see some of your work.
Okay. Let's see. My name is Deth Sun. My pronouns are he, him. I am from Southern California, and I've been a painter and an artist for like 20 years or something like that. Yeah. I've been making zines for a really long time. And I have some zines to show you. So do I just straight up just start talking?
Yeah, definitely. Go ahead.
Okay. Cool. So the first zine that I ever made, not the first zine I ever made, the first art zine that I made was my senior year in college. It's this one called 40 Drawings. And it has a bunch of really bad drawings in it that I don't particularly like anymore because it was done like so long ago. But it was printed, and then I worked out the cost, and I realized how expensive it was going to be to actually to sell it. It wasn't really that expensive. It was like, anyways, I never sold it, and then eventually I sent it off to someone. I would send it off to people who bought paintings from me, and then one of the people who bought paintings from me ended up being a large t-shirt company, which is how I started doing t-shirts for a living, or t-shirt designs for a living, for a short while in my early 20s. And then a bunch of other weird zines that I've done, or normal zines. Here's a zine of my experience in living in Oakland. It's just me drawing like small maps and stuff like that of where I live. And then that was from like a little after school, so it was several years ago. And then I found the older copy, so I remade the newer copy with a bunch of notes in the back of how all those things have changed. And yeah, just a bunch
Can you put that up to the camera a little bit? Deth, can you put those up to the camera a little bit more so we can see the illustrations on there?
Oh yeah.
Thank you.
So this was my old neighborhood in Emeryville, or Oakland border, and Piedmont Avenue, if you remember that, and Berkeley. And then the I just grabbed these out of the box like a couple hours ago. So I'm now trying to figure out where I got these from or where I made these. And then I moved on to like some small narrative stuff, which is like, here's one of them. It's called A Knife in the Dark, and it's basically a wordless like story of this cat character and his travels. And I photocopied the original at my old college. So the glass on the copy machine was all scratched up, and I like the look of it. And then yeah, I just every year I kind of try making a zine, or have a zine project or like a book-based project and try remaking them. This is one that's kind of popular that I made because it's called The Various Things I Eat. I don't have a copy of it. I just have the originals of all the drawings and stuff. And this is the cover. And then in it is, what is in it? In it is every day I drew everything I ate. And I did that for like 9 months. It took like 32 pages. It was it's a funny zine to put out in the world. Because I reprinted a whole bunch and I sent it off to different places, and it has been bought in like so many places, and it's kind of like the zine that I get emailed about from like the most obscure places, from people who have cataloged it or sent it off to like random zine libraries around the world and stuff like that. So it's pretty funny. Mostly I get is people telling me that I should drink more water. And
Why do you think they tell you that, to drink more water?
oh, they catalog all the water that I drink. And sometimes when people see only 2 glasses or 1 or no glasses, they're like, that's basically me telling you that I didn't drink water that day. And it was also like a time where I didn't drink that much. And then I was going to remake that zine again, not remake it, but like do an update, because when you see the stuff that you used to eat, you're always like, that's a weird diet that this person had, because you always are changing. So, but I never got around to it. It's a project that I've been working on. I have all the notes. I just haven't put them all down. It's my trip to the UK where I went for a month. And then I also drew everything I ate when I first moved to Fort Bragg, which is the town I live in now. And yeah, but it's always like those things where you always have so many different projects that sometimes you just put things on the side for so long, and then you move on to another project. And then yeah, here's another zine that I made a few years ago. It's basically an alphabet zine. So each page in the zine has a page that's dedicated to a letter of the alphabet. So there's A and B, and it's just everything I drew. And then this was a long project. It was pretty decent. And yeah, basically I liked Richard Scarry when I was growing up. So like draw everything like his books, word books and stuff like that. And that's where that probably came from. Also, when I was quite young, I didn't have much to draw from. I didn't have a computer. So I would just draw things from an encyclopedia. And that's basically a project that I first thought of doing, or was doing when I was younger, like around 14 or 15. And then, yeah, then all the other ones are just like drawings that I make every year. With like, and they're just all the drawings that I make that eventually come into paintings. And so here's one where it's all coasters. It's very small. But each page I drew on a coaster while I was traveling, because I didn't have access to my paintings and stuff like that. So I bought a box of 100 coasters and I traveled around with it. And
Do you still have those original coasters?
no, while I was traveling, I was just selling them and then shipping to people or whatever and stuff like that.
Nice.
So I just took photographs of them. So these are all just photographs of the coasters. And then I was keeping track of all the drawings that I did each year. But then I stopped because I don't know. It just felt kind of like really like just dating everything. It was just a little over obsessive and stuff like that. And then made another zine that was somewhat narrative, just as an update. It has some nicer images in it. I'm not really into this one, I think because I was avoiding black because I was having problems with like that as in photocopy machines. So I was like, yeah, it was mostly just like a process kind of deal where it didn't come out the way I wanted it to. And then, yeah, I think those are all like the weird zines. Like this is the latest one that I've made. It's just another portfolio zine. It's just mostly of drawings that eventually became prints or when I was like turning into screen prints and stuff like that. And so it's like just a bunch of finished drawings. I was making prints. I was making prints, and they're all like in 9x12, so it fit an 8.5 by 11 zine. And that's the reason why I was like, oh, I have a collection of all these drawings. It'd be nice if I just was able to give it out to people, and that was the whole concept of that zine. And yeah, and do I still have to keep on going?
You don't have to, but I have some requests. You've mentioned like your wordless stories before. Could we see one of those stories that you could either narrate for us, or you don't have to narrate for us since it's wordless anyway, and we just see how it goes.
Well, I mean, the thing is, sometimes you approach things that way and you come up with it, and it's like the way I make my work is that I make paintings, and a lot of the paintings are like, it's just all, you're supposed to like figure it out, your own story and stuff like that. So people, it's like it was a project that I made because people were like, you should try making a narrative. And then I did the narrative and I didn't particularly enjoy the narrative. And because I really do enjoy just making paintings and just trying to figure out my own stuff and like not actually having to like tell people what they should see or what they should feel or like all this other stuff that you should figure out all on your own and stuff like that. And yeah, I don't know.
When you make your paintings, how do you approach them? Like, what is your process when you think of the art you want to make? Because a lot of times it sounds like you are documenting your life, especially what you're reading.
Yeah, like a lot of the stuff comes from I guess my sketchbooks and stuff like that. So I always keep them just like most other people, and I draw in them, and I try a lot of the stuff is just mostly just random things to draw, and I don't know, you just put those pieces together and eventually they turn into something like kind of decent, or like you make them to paintings and stuff like that, or you just follow themes that I've already figured out before.
Okay.
And just move along from there. And then you put all those things together, they somehow make sense and stuff like that.
Okay. I want to share your poster. Wait, let's see. Let me just share your poster briefly, just because we're talking about themes. So this is the poster that Deth designed for week 2 of Cyberfest. I would make the screen bigger, but I'm afraid you're all not going to be able to see it. But let me try anyway, so you get a better view of it. Okay. So one of the things that is consistent in your work, and like on the one side, we see the black and white sticker, the square sticker that's 3 inches by 3 inches. And it's the cat character. Could you tell us more about the cat character? When did you first start realizing that, oh, okay, this is a character that I want to keep showing consistently in my work? Yeah, if you could just talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just kind of like it's just a character that I came up with when I was younger, and it has evolved over time. I mean, I used to draw humans and stuff like that, but there's a certain point where like it just gets a little too complicated, you know, like it's just having a genderless cat that isn't identified by race and stuff like that. It just makes navigating through life way easier for me. And I just like the character. It's just the thing that I drew that I liked. And just easy to like create a story or have things built around something, and not really like.
Would you say the character represents you, or it's a separate character? I mean, it's a separate personality.
I don't know. I don't think so. I don't particularly think too much about it. But yeah, I don't think it represents me at all. It's just a character that I draw. But I mean, like for the most part, a lot of people like when they talk about artists and stuff in the work, there's all that stuff like it's self-reflective and stuff like that. So, but maybe it's me just reflecting like society, like you know, pop culture or like the things I've seen and just remaking them in my own way and stuff like that.
Thank you. So we had a question that someone asked. It's Peg Cheng. When you were showing all your work, they said, "Hey, Deth, your zines are very cool, and I'd love to buy some, but I noticed that all of them are sold out on your site. Do you know of other shops that sell them?"
Yeah, I mean, I haven't sold them in a while, mostly because I was just into selling them in person at zine fairs and stuff like that. And so whenever I go to zine fairs, I'll just like print 20 of them and then make my way down south. So yeah, there isn't a place at all. My problem is that I live in a tiny town and it has like 2 copy places and it's kind of expensive. So I would have to like raise the prices of, but I don't want to do that. So I just basically wait until I get into a bigger town to like make copies, or maybe I should just figure out how to print them online or have. But another thing is like, I think some of them are, I have some PDF files, so I'll probably put them online for free because it doesn't really. Anyways, try to make them more available.
Okay, thank you. Why did you move to Fort Bragg? Like you said, you were in the Bay Area, right? In Oakland?
Yeah, I lived in Oakland for several years, and it got a little weird. And so, I don't know, like I kind of like being independent, and I want to live by myself. So I was thinking about moving east or moving to LA. And then I was visiting a friend, and then I was up here for a while waiting for the heat wave in LA to like die down because I just didn't want to be in a heat wave looking for an apartment at the same time. And then I was in a pizza place called Piaci's, and someone was like, "Hey, why don't you just move here?" And I was like, "If you find me a place." And then they found me a place, and then I ended up moving with my old roommate in Fort Bragg, and then I mean, when I broke it down, and then I figured out a place on my own, it just made more sense to just live here by myself because my bills are like less and stuff like that, and I make the same amount, and I can just be independent and just, you know, like I have a place to screen print, and I have a backyard, and I have all the room, and it doesn't really cost that much, and I can make all these projects and not worry on a like rent to rent, like month to month. I mean, like on rent and stuff like that. And yeah, that's the reason why I moved to Fort Bragg. But there's also other great things about Fort Bragg, such as, I don't know, like people are nice.
That's always a good thing when people are nice. Speaking of some people, Mabel Monroe says, "Hi, Deth, we love you." One of the things I want to ask, you mentioned the heat wave earlier. I mean, I know California right now, to everyone outside of California, it just must seem like the entire West Coast is on fire and terrible weather and terrible everything. Being in Fort Bragg, how are the fires affecting you?
Yeah, a little. Yeah, we had the smoke, and the sky was red and orange and stuff like that. But for the most part, when you're on the coast, it doesn't really affect you that much, because there was a small worry, I think, for some folks, but we're usually the place where all the refugees show up at, so from the fires and stuff, because there is a bit of a breeze that comes out from the ocean. And so but yeah, Mendocino County is the county that has those huge fires, and the fires are in Willits, and it's 24 miles away. And so a lot of people have relatives that are out there and stuff like that. So you see it.
Okay. Since, I mean, we're all sheltering in place for so long, what have you been doing? Like, how have you been passing the time?
Well, I mean, the best part about being like rural is that you don't have to worry as much, even though I am sheltering in place and doing all the things that I assume most people are doing out in the city, because I haven't left the county since January or December. So just riding my bike. I had this whole year planned of doing events and selling paintings, and most of those things got canceled. So I just started selling paintings on my own and then paying my bills that way. And so I don't know, things are just pretty easy.
Okay. Are you selling the work online right now? Is that how you're now primarily selling your work?
Yeah, that's basically, yeah, I am getting by and stuff like that.
Nice. If we weren't, so one of the questions that I know I'd sent you this earlier, and I just wanted to, I always want to know what artists envision, let's say if there weren't any limitations of any sorts, what would be like ideal way for you to spend your day-to-day, but also just you're like, what is your plan for yourself?
Oh.
So let's start with an ideal day. What does your ideal day look like?
I don't really know what my ideal day. I think my ideal day is the day that I have every day, because I'm just doing all the projects that I want to do. I'm not really building up for anything. I don't know, like yeah, sorry.
We can come back to that one. That's fine. That's fine. I know the original question was like, just your ideal day. And then I was like, wait, what is your plan? And then it's the same thing. I mean, if you were to ask me, I would also be like, I don't know. I haven't thought about it that much.
Oh yeah. I mean, I work from like one project to another project, and it's just sort of everything kind of builds from there. But there's a certain point where like it's COVID, I couldn't do the art show that I wanted to do. And then I had to pay my rent. So I just sold all the paintings that I had that would have been installed a certain way that I would have liked. And so that didn't work out. And so, you just move on, and then maybe things will be different. I don't know.
Okay. I know one of the things when we were writing up your bio, there was like, pretty long client list of all the different folks you've worked with. Could you tell us a project that you enjoyed working on? And like, tell us just more about
I mean, no,
it.
can't think of any. They're like, sometimes some things are like, I worked for Urban Outfitters a long time ago. I sent them the zine, and then they just took drawings from it and then made t-shirts out of everything. And I didn't do any work, and they chose all the colors. And but it paid pretty well for me to pay off a good chunk of my student loans with it. And then I can't really even remember most of my illustration jobs because for the most part, like I don't particularly, it's not my jam. It's not things that particularly like mostly how I grade them is like how easy they are or like how much I have to like I don't know. It's not a project that I don't particularly like, and I don't
Okay.
really it, and it just happens, and then when it happens I just do them, and then sometimes they work out and stuff like that, but like I don't know, I don't know, it's easier just being a painter.
um, let's say someone who is starting out is a painter, is an artist such as yourself. Like, what do you think you did right to get those kind of projects in your life? Like, what do you think they should do as someone who is starting out?
um I think being open to things and like being friendly is a pretty big plus, and just developing a lot of interests and stuff like that, and like drawing different things. But yeah, I don't really know. I honestly like I think making stuff and then putting it out there in the world, and eventually people just find you, because that's basically what I did. I don't know if I did anything like super proactive and stuff like that, other than just making a website and then having a bunch of people find me through that way and stuff like that.
Do you feel like you make a lot of connections at zine festivals or book festivals or art festivals that you go to?
Yeah, I don't really know. I mean, I'm pretty anti. I'm not like anti. I'm just like really bad with like, but I can be okay with like talking to people and stuff, or like new people. But yeah, I have met a lot of nice people like with book fairs and zine fairs and stuff like that, and a lot of friends from like back in the day that I'm still friends with today, like over the years and stuff like that. It's a great way to like network or meet friends or meet like minded people.
Yeah. I kind of want to, just seeing all the paintings and the illustrations you have behind you reminded me again of your narrative drawing style. Like, and the wordless storytelling that you tend to do, have you thought about doing a children's book or like a picture book? Have you done one already?
No. I've been asked a couple times. I just it's kind of like one of those things where there's always a project that was always before it and stuff like that, or there's always a thing that stopped me, or it's not like in my interest to make a children's story, but yeah, it's just one of those things that just never presented itself to me that I wanted to do.
If there was what kind of story would attract you to like illustrate it, or to just write about it, or to tell it? What's a story you want to tell?
Yeah, I mean, I just don't know if I work that kind of way, or a lot of the stories that I'm like reading, or like all the comics that I've been reading recently, have just been like history comics and stuff like that, or like personal memoirs. But just because I like consuming all that stuff doesn't mean I really want to produce that kind of stuff. It's not like and yeah, it's just not like my jam. I kind of like just making like things and objects and having people else figure it out on their own and stuff like that.
You mentioned memoirs. I know reading on your website, I forget if it was from another interview or just something you listed in your bio, was about being Cambodian. And then you wrote, which is mostly true. And I didn't know how to interpret that. Could you tell us more about that if you want?
Yeah, like I am Cambodian. My family is from Cambodia. But I say mostly true, like because you know, they might be ethnically Chinese. So they're like Sino Khmer. And also like I'm second generation like Southeast Asian. And so I don't really feel connected sometimes, even though like I'm not ashamed or anything like that, or like, but I'm also at the same time not very proud, or I don't particularly care. It's just mostly my name is very different. It comes up, so people always ask me, what kind of name is that? And then I explain my name, and then a lot of times people want me to know more about Cambodia, and I'm like, I've never been to Cambodia. Like as an adult, I think I've only met like 3 Cambodians, and so it just doesn't feel real when I like, but also like if it's real, but it's not like one of those things that I'm like on the top of my mind, or like, but if it just only comes up in like interviews or things like this or
Yeah.
stuff like that.
It's it's interesting how, depending on, because I'm an immigrant, like I was born in India and then my family moved here when I was 10 years old. And just the connections we feel towards our perceived home country or actual home country over the years, and how it changes through generations, where I'm also like, I also feel like I'm in the middle just because I was young when I moved here. So I have family back in India who'll just be like, remember this, this, and this. And I'm like, I was very young. I don't really remember you that well. But yes, I remember parts of the country and parts of this. Um, and of course, I'm at a stage where I'm kind of losing the native tongue a little bit more, just because I'm not practicing it every day anymore.
Yeah.
And I don't live with family. So there's a lot of stuff that, and then of course I end up having to explain my name as well because it stands out. So my name means happiness or joy. Does your name have a meaning of any significance?
I don't think so. Yeah, I mean, growing up, a lot of times I never really had a lot of curiosity about like a lot of things. Just mostly because my parents were there, but they weren't there because they're always working. So not like not like one of those things where I thought about it too much.
A question I had asked you previously was about like if there were any Cambodia, if there was any like Cambodian art growing up, and if that has in any way influenced your work.
Yeah, I mean, my parents didn't have very much art in their house. They got sponsored by Baptist Christians. So I think the only art that they had from the old country were these 2 statues that were 2 ladies dancing and stuff like that. But it all, like a lot of the stuff that was decorated in my family's house, it was mostly like faux Chinese stuff, like not like really Asian-y things that just looked like it just looked like a weird Asian version of like Pier 1 stuff. I don't know. So, no, I mean, my mom like taught herself English with Eugene Richard Scary books. So I think growing up that way was like trying to figure out the English language. That art like actually influenced me a lot because I remember going through those books and stuff like that, and like drawing stuff from there, and that's
It's I'm just thinking about how different people learn English, and like for me it was watching a lot of Barney as a 5th grader, and then that didn't go over well for my popularity in school, because I would say, yes, I watched Barney and Power Rangers and Family Matters, and that's how I learned English.
Oh, cool.
Watching a lot of that. Um, a question I had, and this is more about now changing gears a little bit. It's two questions. It's like, what's something you like about your work? And then I'll follow that up with a different question. What's something you like about it? You look at it and you're like, you know what? Yeah, I'm glad I did this. I like this part.
Um, I like my color palette.
Agreed. I yeah, just going through your work on your website, definitely seeing that, and of course the colors you use for the poster as well. There's there's a bit of like softness about them that's really nice, and of course it's in stark contrast to the black cat character. Um, what is something you tend to criticize about your work?
I don't know. There are a lot of things I'm always trying to like improve on and like work on. I don't know if I like really criticize or like get too I don't try getting too stoked on my work, or I don't try like I just try like having like kind of like an even balance of like what I'm trying to work on.
What are you? I'm sorry. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, like I don't know.
If not, you mentioned trying to improve on something. What's something you're trying to improve on?
You don't know like all this stuff. There's a certain point where you're like, oh, I'm drawing, and then you're like it's okay, and in your mind you're like, oh, that's okay, and then like 6 months later you're like, oh, that's way better and stuff like that. So a lot of times just like, oh, just mostly just controlling my hand or like figuring out color stuff or like learning how to layer stuff right and like but yeah, I mean, I don't think I'm like a great or perfect artist or anything in that regard, but like I also just don't think about too much. I just think about just like making stuff and then just continue making stuff. And then like I have old drawings that I think are like kind of wonky and stuff like that, but I'm not like really worried about it too much. It's just kind of like that's what I was like years ago. Like,
No, that's great because I think it's I think probably because you're not thinking about it as much that you're able to produce as much as you are, because you seem to produce a lot of work, and you're talking about how often you're like just documenting things that you do as well, which is great. Okay, we have a question from Tana, and Tana's asking, I'm wondering how place or environment, like urban versus natural world, influence or inform your encyclopedic drawings. Like, how is it influencing your drawings from like living in an urban area, the urban environment of here, let's say Oakland, and then going to Fort Bragg and the natural world there?
yeah, I mean, I don't really know like how to answer that question, but I'll try. Well, a lot of the stuff that's around here is Mendocino County is like, since I've come up here, is like everyone here is some sort of naturalist. So I know a lot of people who are like, like there's a woodworking college or like people who work for Fish and Games or people who like work for the lumber industry or like, and so there's a lot of people that you meet and like you go to random parties and a bunch of people will just talk to you about mushrooming or like holistic stuff, like just gathering like random shit like out in the woods and then being like, this is like aspirin or this is aspirin, but it's just like a toned down version of it. And then you're like, oh, crazy. I don't know, like, so just the people around here is a little bit different. So you just start thinking about things like a little bit differently, or like you go through nature, you walk through nature and you see things a little bit differently, or like it's a different pace and stuff like that. So as opposed to like in the city, like I used to go to a lot of art shows and a lot of art openings and a lot of like museums and stuff like that, which is rad, and I love going to those things. But a lot of times, like art based on art, or like art based on like, you know, like other, or paintings that are based on like paintings, and you have to have this certain like knowledge of that history and stuff like that. It just, like, for me, it was just kind of like, I don't know, it wasn't as exciting, or it wasn't, for me, like it wasn't like, it was, it wasn't something that I wanted to particularly want to continue enjoying and stuff like that. So it's just, I don't know, like as a practice, it's a little bit different, stuff like that. So
Do you find yourself including more like natural world elements into your art now as opposed to before?
no, I think I was really into nature before, but like as a abstract thing, because I have a whole bunch of, I have collected like a bunch of like plant books and stuff like that, and like flower books, and I was incorporating it into my work before I got here. But yeah, I mean, it's a thing that was just sort of like building, and then when I got here, it was a little bit different and stuff like that. So I don't know if the actual, because I'm from California, and I'm, you know, the oceans are always there, but I mean, yeah, I don't know, man. I don't. Yeah.
Okay. We have a question from AV. It says you work on a lot of random pieces of wood. How do you prep the wood for painting? Do you sand it, gesso it? Like, what do you do to it?
Oh, I it depends on the wood. But usually, a lot of the woods that I'm like, a lot of small woods that I'm finding, if it's like not a store-bought panel that's like with birch wood, you can just do anything. Usually just gesso and stuff like that. But then I get a whole bunch of like, I go through like the wood college's trash bin and stuff like that, and I sand down the small, like these small bits and stuff like that, and they actually soak up a lot of gesso. And so, and then after that, after a whole bunch of gesso to the point where you can't see the wood grain and the gesso doesn't soak through, I'll put a layer of soft gel medium, which is clear paint, but it's soft enough, and it thickens enough. And if you put 2 or 3 layers and stuff like that, you can draw on it with a pencil without, because if you draw on gesso with the pencil, just disintegrates, like it just smears so much. But on soft gel, it doesn't, and then you can erase it afterwards, and it just works like you're drawing on a nice piece of plastic. And yeah, it's an easy way to make paintings, but it's a lot of it. Takes about it takes about 2 or 3 days to prep a panel before you can actually draw on it, and then painting is the fastest part. So just mostly prepping the wood.
Okay. We have another question, but before that, I wanted to ask, do you prefer like drawing with a pencil or charcoal, anything like that, or do you prefer digital devices to draw?
I mean, drawing is drawing, so it's all kind of the same. So it's all I just started drawing digitally, and it's pretty easy. It's just pretty intuitive. Yeah, it's all the same.
What software do you use, or what do you use to draw digitally?
I'm just using Procreate.
Nice.
I just bought an iPad like 4 months ago, so I was like, oh, this is pretty easy. It's pretty chill.
Nice. Okay, so Peg Chang has the question. It says, hi, Deth, how do you decide what project you're going to work on next? For example, do you ever get a feeling in your body, or does your intuition tell you, like, yes, this is it, or nope, not this?
I don't know. Like, I think it's just whatever is easiest is, like, sometimes when you're like working on a project and it's like feels pretty chill, and you just want to like, because painting is pretty relaxing and stuff, because I'm just like watching TV and I can't leave, so I don't. And like some projects you have to like go through this deep dive of like trying to figure out like how to get it printed, or like how to make a PDF file, or like what kind of paper you need to use, or like do you need to outsource this stuff. And so all that stuff is like not even art, it's just or like digitizing your drawings, or like figuring all that stuff out. It's not art. So sometimes painting feels more like art, and it feels like a project that is like a little bit more rewarding on a like very easy fast tech, like level and stuff like that. Because yeah, and it's also way more fun. I don't know.
Nice. Okay, we're getting close to our ending time, so I'm going to try to wrap it up. But before that, I just thought of one other thing, because you joined our drawing session event yesterday. Do you listen to any music while you're working?
Yeah, sometimes I listen, but also sometimes I just watch TV. Or sometimes I just don't listen to anything at all. So,
Is there anything that inspires you, like outside of art? You mentioned going to art shows and everything before when you lived in Oakland, like watching Netflix or a movie or songs or anything like that.
just I just try collecting like reference books and stuff like that. So I'll just, whatever gets into my sketchbook, eventually, if you doodle enough, you just eventually find something that you like, or like you come up with a funny idea, or I don't know. A lot of just drawings are just like me tapping into pop culture and seeing what other people find in the world. So
Nice. Okay. Thank you so much, Deth. I'm going to reshare my screen just to tell everyone a little bit about like just the event and Cyberfest. But thank you so much for answering all of those questions. We actually had way more questions than I thought we would. All right. And of course, if folks who are watching the broadcast on YouTube or Facebook, if they have any questions, if the volunteers could just send them over, and I may try to squeeze in a question or two before we leave. All right, I'm going to share my screen again. Okay. As you know, Deth is our week 2 guest of honor. You can go to his website, dethpsun.com, to find his work. This is our week 2 festival poster and the sticker that he designed. There are only 20 reso printed posters that they were printed by Shoot Studio. And these are die-cut vinyl stickers. This other thing is for Deth. It's the certificate of recognition. It's signed by Assembly members Philip Y. Ting of the 19th District and David S. Chu of the 17th District. It says, recognizing Deth P's son on the occasion of being recognized as a guest of honor at the 19th Annual San Francisco Zine Fest. Your work, using the power of art to explore narratives through the lens of a central hero character, is commendable. Congratulations on this notable occasion. And we'll be sending the actual physical certificate to you in the mail. Let's see. Just wanted to mention that our upcoming Cyberfest events include a show and tell that's on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Those are from 6 to 7 p.m. Then our Thinking Captions with Deth and 3 of the invited readers that I mentioned previously. That's happening on Friday from 5 to 6:30 p.m. Then to close out the second week of Cyberfest, on Saturday, we have a reso printing demo with Shoot Studio and a drawing / zine making session. Finally, I wanted to thank Gregorio and Ashley of ProBonoASL for interpreting our event today. Thank you so much. We are so grateful that you are helping us make Cyberfest more accessible for everyone. And of course, Intersection for the Arts. We are a member of Intersection for the Arts, which is a Bedrock Bay Area arts nonprofit that provides people working in arts and culture with fiscal sponsorship and resources to grow. That kind of brings us to a close. I'm going to stop sharing to just get any last minute checking for any of the questions. There we go. No other questions. Deth, do you have any final words for our viewers?
yeah, thanks for coming.
Thank you so much. And remember, check out Deth's info on dethpsun.com. And you can also just check out everything on sfzinefest.org.